The new life that began was at the farm called Tor Disperata. One day, while more than ever I had been tormented by the devil, to the point that I felt myself losing my strength and fainting around evening, while I was in this state, I felt I was having a deadly fit, and I lost consciousness. In that state, I saw Jesus Christ surrounded by many enemies. Some were beating him, some were slapping him, some were breaking his legs, some his arms. After they reduced him almost to pieces, they put him in the arms of the Madonna, and this happened not too far from me. After the Most Holy Virgin took him in her arms, she drew near me, and crying, she said to me, "Daughter, see how my son is treated by men, the horrible offenses they commit, which never give him respite. Look at him, how he suffers." And I tried to look at him, and I saw him all bloody, all wounds, and almost cut up, reduced to a mortal state. I felt such pains that I would have wanted to die 1,000 times rather than see my Lord suffer so much. I felt ashamed of my little sufferings. The Most Holy Virgin added, but always crying, "Come closer to kiss the wounds of my son. He chooses you as a victim, and if many offend him, you, by offering yourself to suffer what he suffers, will give him a relief in so much suffering. Won't you accept?" I felt so annihilated. I saw myself so bad, as I am still, and unworthy, that I did not dare to say yes. My nature trembled. I felt so weak from the past pains that it barely left me a thread of life. Then, I don't know how, I saw demons yelling and shouting from afar, and that everything I had seen them do to the Lord they were going to do to me, if I accepted. I felt such pains, sufferings, straining of my nerves within me that I thought I was going to leave life. Finally, I drew near and I kissed his wounds. It seemed that after I did that, those limbs so lacerated would heal, and the Lord, who before seemed to be almost dead, would begin to revive to new life. Interiorly, I received such light about the offenses that are given, and attractions to accept being a victim even if I should suffer 1,000 deaths, for the Lord deserved everything, and I could not oppose what he wanted. This happened while we were in mute silence, but those gazes that we exchanged were as many invitations, as many burning darts that pierced my heart through. The Most Holy Virgin, especially, spurred me on to accept, but who can say all that I went through? Finally, looking at me benignly, the Lord said to me, "You have seen how much they offend me, and how many walk along the path of iniquity, and without realizing it fall into the abyss. Come to offer yourself before divine justice as victim of reparation for the offenses that are given, and for the conversion of sinners who, with eyes closed, drink at the poison fount of sin. A large field of sufferings opened before you, yes, but also of graces. I will never leave you again. I will come within you to suffer all that men do to me, making you share in my pains. For help and comfort, I give you my mother." And he seemed to deliver me to her, and she accepted me. I too offered all of myself to him and to the Virgin, ready to do what he wanted, and this is how it ended the first time. After I came round from that state, I felt such pains, such annihilations of myself, that I saw myself as a miserable little worm that was able to do nothing but crawl on the earth. And I said to the Lord, "Help, your omnipotence knocks me down. I see that if you do not lift me up, my nothingness is undone and will be dissolved. Give me suffering, but I pray you give me strength, for I feel myself dying." And so an alternation began of visits from our Lord and of torments on the part of the demons. The more I resigned myself, the more they increased their rage. A few days after what I said above, I felt I was losing consciousness again. I remember that, at the beginning, every time I felt such a state come to me, I thought I was going to leave life. As I lost consciousness, our Lord made himself seen once again with the crown of thorns on his head, all dripping with blood, and turning to me, he said, "Daughter, take a look at what men do to me. In these sad times their pride is so great that they have infested all the air, and the stench that spreads everywhere is such that it has reached even before my throne in heaven. They act in such a way as to close heaven by themselves. The miserable ones have no eyes to know the truth, because they are obfuscated by the sin of pride, with the sequel of the other vices which they carry with them. Oh, please, give me a relief from so many bitter spasms, and reparation for so many wrongdoings against me." And in saying this, he removed the crown from himself, which did not look like a crown, but all one piece, such that not even a little portion of the head remained free, but it was all pierced through by those thorns. As he removed the crown, he drew near me and asked me if I accepted it. I felt so annihilated, I felt such pains because of the offenses that are given, that I felt my heart split. I said to him, "Lord, do with me what you want." And he took it. He drove it onto my head, and he disappeared. Now, who can say the spasms I felt when I came back to myself? At each movement of my head, I thought I would breathe my last. So many were the pains and the prickings I felt in my head, in my eyes, in my ears, behind my neck. I felt those thorns penetrate even into my mouth, and it clenched in such a way that I could not open it to take food. So I would remain sometimes 2 days, sometimes 3, without being able to take anything. When they somehow mitigated, I would feel, sensibly, a hand that pressed my head and renewed the pains. And sometimes the spasms were such that I would lose consciousness because of the pain. At the beginning, this would happen on certain days, while on others it wouldn't. When they were repeated, it would be 3 or 4 times a day, and they would last sometimes a quarter of an hour, sometimes half an hour, sometimes 1 hour, and then I would remain free, though feeling very weak and in suffering. I would remain in suffering more or less, depending upon how much those pains were communicated to me during that state of dozing. I also remember that since sometimes, because of the sufferings in my head, as I said above, I could not open my mouth in order to take food, and since my family knew that I didn't really want to be in the countryside, when they saw that I was not eating, they would attribute it to a fuss of mine, and naturally they would become irritated. They would get upset, and they would mock me. My nature wanted to resent this, because I saw that what they were saying was not true, but the Lord did not want this resentment, and here is how it happened. One evening, while we were at table, and I was in the state of not being able to open my mouth, my family began to get upset. I was so affected that I started to cry, and in order not to be seen, I got up and I went somewhere else, continuing to cry. And I prayed Jesus Christ and the Most Holy Virgin to give me help and strength in order to bear this trial. But as I was doing this, I felt I was beginning to lose consciousness. Oh God, what pain! The mere thought that my family was going to see me, for until then they had not noticed it. At that moment I said, "Lord, do not permit that they see me." I was so ashamed to be seen that I myself cannot explain why, and I tried as much as I could to hide in places where I could not be seen. When then I was caught by surprise in such a way that I would not have the time to hide, or at least to kneel, for whatever position I was in, I would remain in it, and they could say there I was praying. Then I would be found out. As I lost consciousness, our Lord made himself seen in the midst of many enemies who were giving him all sorts of insults. Especially they grabbed him and trampled him underfoot. They blasphemed him. They pulled his hair. It seemed to me that my good Jesus wanted to escape from under those fetid souls, and he kept looking. Who knows? He might find a friendly hand who would free him, but he found no one. While seeing this, I did nothing but cry over the pains of my Lord. I wanted to go into the midst of those enemies. Who knows? Maybe I could free him, but I did not dare to. I said to him, Lord, let me share in your pains. Oh, please, if only I could relieve you and free you. As I was saying this, those enemies, as if they had understood, came against me, but so enraged, and they began to beat me, to pull my hair, to trample me. I had so much fear. I suffered, yes, but within me I was content, because I could see that the Lord was given a little bit of respite. Afterwards, those enemies disappeared, and I remained alone with my Jesus. I tried to compassionate him, but I did not dare to say anything. And he, breaking the silence, said to me, all that you have seen is nothing compared to the offenses they give me continuously. Their blindness, the engulfing of earthly things, is so great that they reach the point of becoming not only my cruel enemies, but also enemies of themselves. And since their eyes are fixed on the mud, they reach the point of despising the eternal. Who will put an end to so much ingratitude? Who will have compassion for so many people who cost me blood, and who live almost buried in the stench of earthly things? Oh, please, come with me and pray and cry together with me for so many blind who are all eyes for all that gives of earth, and then despise and trample my graces under their filthy feet, as if they were mud. Oh, please, lift yourself above all that is earth, abhor and despise all that does not belong to me. Do not be affected any more by the insults you receive from your family, after you have seen me suffer so much, but take to heart my only honor. The offenses that they give me continuously, the loss of so many souls. Oh, please do not leave me alone in the midst of so many pains that torture my heart. All that you are suffering now is little compared to the pains you will suffer. Have I not always told you that what I want from you is the imitation of my life? Take a look at how dissimilar you are from me. Therefore, pluck up courage and do not fear. After this, I returned to myself, and then I realized that I was surrounded by my family. They were crying and were all in distress, and they had such fear that the state might happen again, especially that I might die, that they brought me back to Corato as quickly as they could so that I might be observed by doctors. I can't explain why I felt such pain at the thought that I was to be visited by doctors, that many times I cried and lamented to the Lord, saying to him, how many times, O Lord, I prayed you to let me suffer hiddenly. This was my only and sole contentment, and now I am deprived also of this. Oh, please tell me, what shall I do? You alone can help me and relieve me in my affliction. Don't you see how many things they say? One thinks in one way, one in another. One wants have one remedy applied on me, one another. They are all eyes over me in such a way that they give me no more peace. Oh, please help me in so many pains, for I feel life failing me. And the Lord benignly added, do not want to afflict yourself because of this. What I want from you is that you abandon yourself as though dead in my arms. Until you keep your eyes open to look at what I am doing and at what the creatures do and say, I cannot operate freely upon you. Don't you want to trust me? Don't you know how much I love you, and that everything I allow, either through creatures or on the part of demons or directly from me, is for your true good and serves for nothing other than to lead the soul to that state for which I have chosen her. Therefore, I want you to remain in my arms with your eyes closed, without looking at and investigating this or that, trusting me completely and letting me operate freely. If then you want to do the opposite, you will lose much time, and you will come to oppose what I want to do with you. As for creatures, use profound silence. Be benign and submissive with everyone. Let your life, your breath, your thoughts, and your affections be continuous acts of reparation to placate my justice, offering me, along with them, the bothers from creatures, which will not be few.